Today we're talking about solving equations using factoring. These are done whenever you have a quadratic equation, and a quadratic equation is one that has this x squared term first. The first thing that you want to do whenever you're solving the equation by factoring is obviously factor. We're going to use the Chinese method of factoring. So we have a 1 in front of this x squared, and the only factors of 1 could be 1 and 1. We have a negative 10 as my last number, and the only factors of negative 10 that could possibly make 3 are going to be 2 and 5 in some way. The problem is 2 times 5 is not equal to 10. 2 times 5 is equal to positive 10, not negative 10. So what I need to do is figure out what to do with the negative signs. One of them has to be negative. Remember that they have to add to the middle number, negative 3, so I'm going to go ahead and try making the negative on the 5 here, and I'm going to hope that's going to make negative 3 when I do the cross multiplying. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5, 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 minus 5 is a negative 3. So those are the proper factors. That means the factored version of the original equation is 1x plus 2 times 1x minus 5. But there's still the matter of this equals 0 out at the end. And that is the key to solving an equation using factoring. Because we now have two things that are being multiplied by each other. And remember, in order to multiply to get this 0, that means one or both of these two sets of parentheses has to be worth 0. So either 1x plus 2 is 0, because 0 times whatever this guy is must be 0. Or the 1x minus 5 has to be 0. So what we're going to do is set up two equations. Right? So the next step is set up two equations. These two equations are going to be taking the factors, 1x plus 2, and setting it equal to 0. And the other factor, 1x minus 5, and setting it equal to 0. So that are both set equal to 0. Alright, so we have to set up two equations that are both set equal to 0. Now these equations are usually very easy to solve. So we're just going to solve them both, and that's the third step, is to solve the two equations. So we're going to take it and we're going to subtract 2 from both sides and get rid of that. And that'll leave me with x is equal to negative 2. This is one of my two answers. Same thing on the other equation. To get rid of a minus 5, we have to add 5, and that'll get me x is equal to 5. And this is the other solution of my equations. So my solutions are negative 2 and positive 5. Just to be thorough, let's go ahead and do another example of that type of problem. This one is slightly more complicated because it has a non-1 leading coefficient. So this 3 is not equal to 1. But 3 is a prime number, and the only way to make a 3 is to multiply 1 times 3. Of course, we need our n's there to make the n squared. So we need to now figure out what to do about the 8. Well, the 8 has a lot of factors, 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and guess 2 and 4. I'm going to just put them down here and hope that it's going to work out for me. So 3 times 2 is equal to 6. 1 times 4 is equal to 4. And 6 plus 4 is equal to 10. Now, I did need a 10, so that's sort of right. All right, because I did need a 10. But I don't need exactly a 10, I need a negative 10. So I'm going to try it again, because not only could I multiply 2 times 4 to get positive 8, but I could also multiply negative 2 times negative 4, and that would also get me a positive 8. So 3 times negative 2 is now negative 6. 1 times negative 4 is now negative 4. And those things, when you add them, is equal to a negative 10. And now that is right. That's what I need it to be. So my two factors are now 1n minus 2, which is the top line, and 3n minus 4, which is the bottom line. Don't forget the equals 0, it's still out there at the end. So the first step that we just did was factor them. The second step that we need to do, again, is write two equations. So my first equation, again, is going to take this thing and set it equal to 0. So 1n minus 2 equals 0. The second equation is going to take that thing, the 3n minus 4, and set it equal to 0. And these are my two equations that I have. I have to solve them both, and that is the third step, is to solve both equations. The first equation is very easy to solve. To get rid of a minus 2, I have to add 2 to both sides, leaving me n is equal to positive 2. That is one of my answers. The second equation is still easy, but it is slightly more difficult because it does have division involved. So we start with getting rid of the minus 4 by adding 4, and this will get me 3n is equal to a positive 4. This is not my answer because n is not by itself, so I have to divide by 3 to get rid of the 3 in front of it, leaving me n is equal to 4 over 3. 4/3 is my second solution. And that is how you solve equations using factoring.